Sophie from Live It Earth. Welcome back to a new Live It career pathway.
Connection established.
Today I'm super happy to be here with Elizabeth. Hi Elizabeth, thanks for meeting with us today.
It's my pleasure. Hi Sophie, it's really wonderful to be here.
Elizabeth, you are a naval architect, but you also founded your own company. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, my current job is I am executive director of a not-for-profit organization, the Vancouver Maritime Centre for Climate. I work on our day-to-day operations, and I also work to convene the regional maritime and shipping industry in the province of British Columbia to help them decarbonize.
When you say decarbonize, are you talking about ships? Do you help people build ships that produce less emissions?
Vancouver Maritime Centre for Climate, we ourselves don't do any installation of new equipment or machinery that will help them reduce emissions, but we do work with ship owners to help them understand how to achieve those goals. So my background before I did this job, I was working as a naval architect, and I worked with a ship owner who had a very large fleet of container ships operating around the world. And part of my job there was to provide naval architectural expertise to them to help them understand how to reduce the fuel consumption of the vessels.
Elizabeth, I was wondering, what would a zero-emission ship look like?
Okay, that's an absolutely great question. There's many things that ships can do to reduce their emissions, like changes to the main engine, changes to the hydrodynamic appendages, or also logistical changes, meaning how they operate or move through the water, this sort of thing. But the main way that all ships can get to zero emissions is through use of alternative fuels. So right now ships use primarily carbon-based fuel, and they can switch either to electricity, ammonia, methanol, LNG, other types of fuels which have substantial reduction in emissions or eliminate emissions completely.
Could we ever see a gigantic catamaran or a big cargo sailboat like in the past?
There's been some talk of this, of ships going back to being entirely sail-based, like wind propulsion-based vessels. Like, why don't we go back to using vessels that just sail across the ocean? And this is actually a really great idea, especially if we're transporting things that aren't perishable and can get there for over a longer period of time. So it's possible things like, car carriers could establish this, or the clothing industry as well could transport goods this way. But for things like food or require more timely delivery, it would make sense to stick with something that can move a bit faster.
Elizabeth, how did you become a naval architect? Did you have to take any specific courses or training?
Originally, I have a degree in anthropology. When I first heard the term naval architecture, I thought it had something to do with the military. So I wasn't really interested. And it was a co-worker of mine who introduced me to my first naval architect, and I still know him to this day. And I went to shadow him at his job. And when I saw what he did, I immediately fell in love. But, and there was a big but to this, I wasn't very good at math. And so I had to take a bunch of transition courses, go back to school to take some, mathematics 101, this sort of thing. And I failed one of those math classes, and it was a really humbling experience for me. But what I did, which was a very valuable lesson that stuck with me to this day, is I engaged a tutor to work with me. And she taught me how to learn and understand math. And once I grasped what she was teaching me, it clicked, and I went on to really excel at math. And to this day, I'm very good at understanding math and all the concepts.
That is so great to hear. Thanks for sharing. I know that math can be so challenging for lots of students. Was there something as a kid that attracted you to that career in naval architecture?
When I think I was about 7 or 8, my parents enrolled us in sailing lessons, but immediately I fell in love. I thought, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And again, I didn't know how at that age, but I grew up reading a lot of adventure sailing novels like Bernard Moitessier and Sir Francis Chichester. And one Christmas, my mom bought me a book basically showing how to build a boat. And that was, I used to pore over that book. I didn't understand half of it, but I really loved it. But again, I didn't know what a naval architect was until I was in my early 20s. So I think Sometimes in life we might have a feeling in our gut or an idea of what we want to do. We don't necessarily understand how to get there, and it can just take time and continual conversations and processing in our minds and in our lives for us eventually to find the right course.
Wow, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for sharing about your life's work and your career and everything that you do for climate change. It's so inspiring.
It's my pleasure, Sophie, to contribute. Thank you so much for having me.
And thanks to all the kids for watching. See you next time!